Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is a beautiful Sunday morning, and today I'm going to be working on my witch's tree, a Thuja occidentalis or eastern white cedar. This tree is a root over rock planting, and I use the same technique that I did on my pruning temple. I arrange the roots around the rock, then I put a thin layer of moss covering the roots, and to hold the roots against the rock, I placed some stones around it, and that seemed to work quite well. The roots are established over the rock now. I arranged the surface roots the best I could, making them nice and radial, and some of them flow really nicely from the trunk against the rock. Some of them, like this one, is a bit awkward, the transition from the trunk to the root, but I think that'll improve with age. I call this tree the witch's tree, and it's styled to look like an old weather-beaten ancient cedar. My witch's tree has been outside, and you can see it's got its winter colors. The foliage is kind of a bronze color. You can flip it over and you can see the brighter green underneath. So that's how you can tell that your cedar's doing well. If I compare it to my wild thing, it's been in the greenhouse and the color is still kind of a nice bright green on it. They can get quite a bronzy color in winter. I'll show you another one that's outside. Here's some smaller seedlings, and you can see they're a very bronzy color. But if you flip them over, you'll see the nice green underneath. I've left my witch's tree to grow over the entire summer, and it's grown really well. I'm going to start today by pruning those new shoots back to the first set of fronds or leaves that are coming out from the base of the new shoot. Here is a look at one of the new shoots, so you can see it extends out. Here's my first set of leaves. If they're healthy, I'll prune back to the first set. If they look weak, I'll prune back to the second set. On this tree, the first set looks nice and strong, so I'll just prune in front of those, like that. Taking the new shoot off, leaving some of the new growth on it. Then I'll come in and pinch the tips of that new growth, and that'll create some subdividing when the new shoots come out in spring. I'll work away pruning up all this new growth, making the tree more compact. Then we'll come back and look at the branches and do the branch selection. I pruned back all that new growth, making the tree more compact. So next is the branch selection. Here's a look at what I pruned off. A lot of growing tips. I'll show you the canopy now. So you can see it's more compact, but it's very jumbled. There's a lot of branches growing underneath other branches. They kind of are growing any direction, crossing trunk lines. So for a branch to thrive on these eastern white cedars, they need sunlight. So branches that are down here in the shade, if they don't get sun, they'll wither away and die. So when I do my branch selection, it's important that every branch has sunlight when viewed from above. I'm going to do the branch selection on my witch's tree now. And this tree isn't a beautiful flowing tree. It's meant to look contorted and weather beaten. So I won't be pruning branches for beautiful flowing lines. I'll be pruning them more for angular kind of growth, making the tree look contorted and weather beaten. I'm going to start the branch selection on my tree. So I do like all these weeping branches. I think they add to that feeling that the tree is weather beaten. It's not growing upright and vigorous. It's kind of gets snow load on it and branches break, and so that's the look I'm going for. I do have a vigorous branch out the front here that needs to be shortened even more, so I will. Taking the tip off it. I'm looking at the branches here now. I think this branch kind of comes out the front here, and I've got a vertical part of it here that I don't think I want, so I'm going to prune that away. So here I go, taking that off. And then the branch is growing across this other branch, so I think I want to redirect it out front, so I'll take some more off that branch. So this branch isn't shading out the one beside it. This branch can come off. It's growing underneath another branch. Wasn't getting much light anyway. So it's just a matter of going in and examining every branch. Follow the branch line out to the tips. Make sure it gets sunlight and that the branches aren't getting too crowded. So I'm just trying to sort out sort of the top of this branch line. I have a lot of confusion in this area. So I think I'll start with this side branch here. See what's growing off of it. I can remove this upper section here, like that. I can prune this one back a bit. Pinch the tips. I think that's got this side branch sorted out now. This one, I've got a lot going on here. I'll take this branch out. It's going straight out the front and growing over top of this other one. And then I'll take off these vertical shoots here. Like that. That gives this branch sunlight here. There's one kind of growing in between here. I think I better take that one right out. It's growing a very strange direction. Like that. This one can come out. And then this vertical one back here can come out. So this part of the branches, they're all getting light. Take this dead stub off here. There's another dead bit in here I can take out. There's a big crossing branch here. I'll just prune it back. And I may keep it, I'm not sure. It's quite vigorous. This one can, no, this one's coming off. It's growing across all the other branches. And I'm thinking this one can come off too. Like that. This one can be shortened. As you prune away at the tree, you get a better and better look at the structure of it. And you can further shorten branches, remove them. And it's good to always go in the top view and see what branches are getting sun and what's getting shaded out. I've got the trunk line that comes out the front pruned up. So you can see structurally it's much better. It's more compact and it's more open. It's not dense like this one. So there's light getting to all the branches. And, you know, pruning these trees, it's an artistic decision which branches you keep and which you remove. And that's part of the art of bonsai, is shaping the tree how you envision it in the end. So I'll work on this trunk line next over here, sorting the structure out. I've got my second trunk line pruned up, so here it is here. So you can see it's, you know, thinned out. I picked my branches that I like, pruned away the others. So next I'm going to tackle the third trunk out the back here, which is very, very heavy. So here I go. I have finished the pruning of the third trunk line back here. So you can see it's more kind of flowing. The branches have sunlight. So let's step back now and have a look at the tree. I'm looking at the tree from the distance now. Yeah, it's sparser. I've got a lot of kind of cascading branches on it. The apex is much more compact. Yeah, I've sorted quite a bit out on this tree. There's a branch back here in the apex that's kind of crossing that I think I'll remove that one. And I think all the rest look good. Yeah, so this one branch back here looked a bit funny from the front view, so I'll take that one off. Here is a look at what I took off today. So a lot of foliage. Nothing really major as far as branch pruning, but certainly trimmed up. Let's fly in now and have a look at the witch's tree. My landscape has a lot of weeds in it, and there's a lot of moss growing by the trunk here. But I'm not going to do any weeding or pick the moss off the trunk because you often get roots growing from the tree into this moss. So I want to leave it at least for another year before I start cleaning up the base of the tree and the landscape. So I just want to leave it undisturbed, let those roots grow, cling to the rock. And in the future, I'll be exposing all the roots so you can see them clearly. I'm happy with the pruning of the witch's tree. I think it's looking like an ancient old spooky tree. It's time now for today's updates. Here is an update to the garage for the Porsche. So the gravel pad is all leveled. The construction of the garage is coming along nicely, putting it together. So we got the rounded roof version, which should shed the snow a lot better than the triangular peak. Here is where the gravel pile was. 8 cubic yards of gravel, all moved by wheelbarrow. I even had enough gravel to fix the end of the driveway here. It was kind of depressed in this area and water always collected here, so got that done too. It's getting close to sunset, so I'm heading off to the orchard now to give you an update of what's going on there. On the way to the orchard, there is a new redwood tree that the city planted here. So here's what it looks like now. So it's got its fall colors, and my little Dawn redwood is also getting some fall colors. So yeah, the trunk is pretty smooth at the moment. It doesn't have that kind of ribbed or buttressed or fluted trunk on it yet. So this is it. We'll keep track of it over the years. It'll be interesting to see how it grows up. So the community gardens are just behind this forest here. So I'm heading off through the path. So here is the pathway through the forest to the community orchard. Just through here. So on the way to the orchard, here's a buckthorn that was topped. You can see that orange colored wood, and you can see all the new shoots that came out of it. So in the ground, they are super vigorous. So here is the orchard. So let's head out to the spiral orchard now and have a look. Here is a look at one of our peach trees. So all these trees were planted during COVID in 2020, and this tree got a lot of fruit on it this year. It was amazing. You can see the moon up there. That's really cool. Here is the spiral orchard. So this year we got a lot of fruit on the trees. We winter prepped all the trees, so we painted the trunks with the white latex. You can see them painted, and then we put the spiral wraps around them, and we mulched them in with wood chips. So it was a lot of work doing all the trees in the orchard, but it's worthwhile doing. So here's the difference. This tree has not been pruned this year, and you can see it's kind of wild and shaggy looking. Beside it is a tree that I've pruned up, and I'm working my way around the orchard pruning the trees. So here's a look at one I've pruned up. These are both Korean pears. So there's a look at the structure of it. So it's pruned up just like a bonsai. It's looking good. Here's a look at one of the cherry trees. And this tree was full of cherries this year. It really produced. So I gave it quite a pruning. It was twice as large as this originally. So I've got that all pruned back, ready for spring. Over here in the First Nations garden, the cedars kind of grew this year for the first time. So you can see up top here, this growth up top is all new for this year. And they haven't been growing well because they're out here in the middle of a field, full sun. There's not a lot of water out here. But yeah, this year they're starting to take off. So they'll grow into tall trees eventually. Here is a look at the First Nations garden. And this year there was a lot of native plants put into this circular garden here. And yeah, hopefully it'll just keep getting better and better. Here's a look at all the wood chips. They go all the way around the spiral. And it spirals around to the center of the garden here. So there's a lot of work hauling wood chips out here, spreading them out. The community garden beds here are pretty well all put to sleep. Some people are growing some cold hardy vegetables like lettuce and kale. There's large areas of the garden here that are covered in plastic to keep the weeds down, and they'll prepare these beds for next year, growing all kinds of vegetables. You can see this pear tree hasn't been pruned yet, all the vertical spikes, so they'll all have to get reduced back, keeping every branch in the sun and providing airflow through the fruit trees. Here's one of the beds in the community gardens, and you can see the lettuce growing in there, looking quite nice. Even though we've had some very cold days, it's surviving well. This plot here is our orchard tree nursery. So there's the sign for it. So over here, here's the larch. So these are the same larch that I put in my bog forest, the same lot of seedlings. And you can see it's grown up to the height of me now. So they definitely grow quite vigorously in the ground. So I think these larch will be ready to plant in the First Nations garden this spring, which is exciting. Beside it is our cherry plums. So these trees were all grown from seed, and I pruned them really far back many times. And you can see it's taller than me now, these trees. So yeah, it's been a lot of pruning on these trees to keep them down to a single trunk and to keep them compact. They were just absolutely huge before. In the bed here we also have some Kentucky coffee trees and some sea buckthorn. A lot of the beds have straw or sawdust on them for the winter. Some people just put tarps on top of their plot to keep it weed free until spring comes. I think the spiral orchard is going to look awesome in spring when all the trees are in flower. It should be very fragrant too. We have a few raised beds in the community gardens for people who are in wheelchairs, so they can garden too. Here is my wife's garden plot, and it's full of raspberries and blackberries. So these will all get moved out to the spiral orchard, planting them between the trees, creating kind of a hedge, an edible hedge. It'll be really something in the future. Some people just use mulched up leaves as a top dressing in their gardens. The water tank here used to be a busy place, and we collected rainwater and used a hose to fill it up. And that's how people watered their garden plots. But now it doesn't get used because over here the city put in a water line. So here it is, right here. So now people are using the hose water. I think this bed here has a cover crop on it for the winter. There's a new composting center put in here at the community gardens. So that's where all the compost, the weeds, everything goes, creating soil for the future. So over here there's a lot of new garden beds going in. A lot. It stretches right over there, right almost to the fence line. So originally this was going to be the edible forest, nut trees, walking paths, but I don't know, plans have changed. It's now kind of farmland, I guess. The original idea for this site was to extend the forest out here, creating trails and planting edible trees, shrubs, and bushes, and to have walking trails all through here. So it'd be a place that the community can walk around, explore, and snack on all the edibles. Unfortunately, the plan has changed now. It seems to be going more towards big rectangular plots, growing vegetables for I'm not sure what, maybe the community food center. So it's kind of lost its public appeal, that, you know, it's turning into a place that detracts people rather than encouraging people to walk around here, because you can't walk through these gardens or anything. So it's too bad that way. And it's also created a very high maintenance workspace here that, you know, you have to plant all these gardens, weed them, water them. Whereas the edible forest was going to be like a, not totally maintenance free, but a lot less work than this kind of farming here. So I'm a little disappointed that the scope of this land has changed. It's one of the reasons I'm not involved with it much anymore, because I think it's turned into a bit of a nightmare. You can imagine all the work of planting all this. It's like beyond the scope of the volunteers we have. Over here are the bird houses, the bluebird houses that Murray put in. I don't think anyone's maintained them. Let's just have a look. See if there's any nests in here. Let me just pull the pin out. Oh, there is a nest in there. Well, that got used. That's good. So that'll have to be cleaned out. I'll do that. Let's check the other one over here. I haven't heard from Murray. I hope he's doing well. You never know. I haven't seen him out here. Okay, so this one also has a nest in here, and it also has a wasp nest up top there. Just a small one. Looks like mud dappers or something. So yeah, at least they got used. So I'll clean those out for spring. I'm a firm believer in letting nature do most of the work. I think the edible forest would have been really nice out here. The solar panels we put on the roof up here never did get hooked up. They have just sat there for years. Here's one of the volunteers that helps out in the orchard, Shelley. You've probably seen her in previous videos, right?
Probably.
I think so. And this is your garden plot here?
This is it. Harvesting some turnip today.
Oh, cool. It's getting really cold out, isn't it?
It's very chilly, yeah.
Well, nice to see you again, Shelley.
Yeah, good to see you.
Probably see you on Thursday again if the weather's good?
Yes.
All right. So the sun has set. It is time to head back home. You can see the last of the sunlight hitting the top of the water tower there. In the twilight here, you can really see the asymmetry of these trees, how there's very little branches on this side and it's fuller on this side. So yeah, interesting styling for a conical tree, something I'll keep in mind for the future. It was nice to get my eastern white cedar pruned up and ready for growth in the spring. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.